Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Kat. I'm a wife, a homeschool mom, and an avid reader. And for everyone else, welcome back. It's hard to believe, but this marks the 1 year anniversary of when I first posted my first video. And I just want to say a quick thank you to those who have been with me on this journey. For those who haven't, you probably aren't missing much. I don't think that in the last year I have improved that much, but I'll let you be the judge of that. This week, to get down to business, I wanted to go over my April reading and just kind of share with you some of what I've read and how my April reading went. I am not going to go over every single book I read during April. I'm gonna just kind of hit the highlights for this one. Um, Mainly those that I read for the two readathons that I did during April, being um, Aurelium, the Magical Readathon, hosted by um, G over at Book Roast, and the Realmathon, hosted by Cass from Books with Cassidy. Books with Cass? Books with Cassidy. Something like that. I'll have them linked in the description below. Um, Over the course of the month, I did read a total of 12 books. I actually finished 13 and started a 14th, but one of those I started well into, or I started well before April, and then the other I started in April but did not finish. It probably comes out to about the same either way. So, that being said, of those 13 books, it was 4,397 pages read for the month. And every single book that I read during April was an adult book. There was one that when I had read the first book of the series, I thought it was YA due to the author. But when you get to the second book, you find very quickly that it is new adult, not YA. And there was a lot going on in there that I would not put in the hands of anyone under the age of 18. And I will get to those in a few minutes. Of those 13 books, um, 3 were fantasy, 3 were sci-fi, 1 was a mystery, 2 were romance or contemporary, 2 were horror, and then I had 1 that was other, and this was my classical, um, no, that one, I'm sorry, that one is a nonfiction memoir that I read. Um, so that leads me to Aurelium and its how I did for its readathon. For Aurelium, I was going for the wild form druid. I kind of last year when I did this, I went into it going, I'm just gonna read and see how I do, and then plug in prompts for what or plug in prompts and figure out a profession from there. And for me in April, that probably was the best choice I could make last year. I only read 5 or 6 books last year in April. And as I've already said, I've read 13 during this April. April is always a weird month for me. between having to get grades in, having both middle school and high school performances, and elementary school performance, and the art show all in the last 2 weeks. It just puts a lot on my plate, along with trying to do finals and get grades out, all that fun teachery stuff. So my April normally does not end up being a great reading month. This year, though, looking at the professions, I really, really wanted this wild form druid. A wild form druid is, from what I understood, was a magical being who can shapeshift. If I remember correctly, they can go to a, they either have a companion or they can go to and turn themselves into a creature. And I may totally be wrong on that. Check out G's channel and don't go just from my memory. But for that one, I had to read 8 books for 8 prompts, and I did that. Not only did I do that, I read 9 books for it because I really wanted to read the nonfiction that I had picked and the fiction I had picked for the heads and tails prompt. So I read both. I didn't even flip a coin. I just read a nonfiction and a fiction. For heads and tails, this was my animal studies prompt. For the nonfiction, I picked 100 Saturdays. And for the fiction, I picked X's and O's. Of these two, I had a lot more fun. Fun is probably the wrong word. I enjoyed 100 Saturdays a whole lot more. This is a gripping memoir / biography of a woman who has gone through or lived through World War II and the internment camps, the concentration camps, and all of that happened to the Jewish people. She was even in Auschwitz for a short time. And so this is one that, seeing that perspective has always been very eye-opening for me and really can be really gut-wrenching. This one was not so much for me as far as gut-wrenching. Yes, you get slight pictures of hearing about her time in the concentration camps, but her primary focus was just kind of what it meant to be a Jew in Rhodes at the time of the Nazis and them starting to take over Europe during this time. I really, really enjoyed this one. And if there are a lot of books on the Jewish struggles in the concentration camps, and if that's what you're looking for, 100 Saturdays probably is not the best pick for you, but I loved that it was more, I don't want to say lighthearted because it had those heavy things, but it was more hopeful. And throughout the book, we kind of see that our Jewish survivor never loses her hope throughout the book and throughout her time. Even though she turns away from her Jewish faith, she never loses hope. Whew. All right. So, my second prompt that I did was The Art of Illusion. I had to match my clothes to match my book to the color of a cover that I had. Sorry about that. I got a phone call from the vet. Um, so, um, I was at Focus Disguise Self for the Art of Illusion prompt. This one I had to match the book I was going to read based on the color that I was wearing. That night, I was actually in my pajamas and I had on a navy tank top. And so I actually have this one right here. I read Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Maniscalco. This one is the second book in the Kingdom of the Wicked series. This one's following a character who her sister gets murdered and she feels it's her job to figure out who killed her sister and all of this. Excuse me. This was a series that I thought was young adult at first. Kingdom of the Wicked, very much in those lines of young adult from what I remembered. But then I started Kingdom of the Cursed, and it became quite clear quite quickly that it is not a YA. It is very much a new adult moving into an adult novel. There were a few things that at first I was kind of like, hey, this is hinting at some things that, and then it no longer was hinting. I had a lot of fun with it though. It was great for me reading this one. And then I also read The Kingdom of the Feared, which is the third book in that series, for my astronomy prompt of 2 letter E's in the title. And so that one, I did finish that trilogy, had a great time with it. It was fun to see how Carrie was dealing with demons and witches and those kinds of prompts, or those kind of tropes that we didn't really we saw the other side in her Stalking Jack the Ripper series. So I had a lot of fun with that, and it was a series that I could knock off my list of series that I had ongoing and was able to finish. The next prompt for this was Conjuration, a book recommended by a friend. And for this one, I read A Dreadful Splendor. My sister recommended this to me, and she definitely has great choice. Her and I have very similar reading taste, and so she's a trusted source. I can go to her anytime and be like, hey, I need a book, and she'll go, oh, I just read this one, you'll like it. And so this was a lot of fun for me. I also, the next prompt for Wild Form Druid was Elemental Studies, and this was flowers on the cover. During this was also this I kind tied in with the Realmathon, Readathon, because I had chosen the sci-fi nonfiction group. So I picked up a Psalm for the Wild Built, and this one follows robots and, follows people who have separated themselves from robots and AI, and one adventurer ends up coming in contact with a group of robots and just the interaction that happens with those. This one is a series as well. I know that the second book is out. I don't know if it's just a duology or if there will be more, but I knocked one series off and added another one. I can't help myself. I love my series. Another book that added another series on my list, if I can grab it, is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This one was for the Magic Missiles prompt, and I had to have a book that was between 389 and 415 pages. This one fit right in there. I was kept looking through my TBR cart going, what can I read? What can I read? And so this one fit very well there. I ended up, as I was reading through the month, finding a whole bunch that would have fit, but I did do this one for that. I had a great time with it, and Vengeful, which is the second book in this duology, is on my TBR for May. So I definitely enjoyed it. This one has more of that morally gray characters and trying to figure out how to move through. It's kind of nice to have a series that kind of plays with that things don't have to be black and white, and that there is some chaos that comes into play and can change our alignments or make our alignments seem one way when our motives are another, or vice versa. And so the ends sometimes justify the means in the case of this book. Then for Restoration, for a book that I had to pick on random. This says close your eyes, shuffle, and point. I used a random wheel generator, and put on a list of books, and I got really lucky and was able to read Brandon Sanderson's newest book, The Frugal Wizard's Handbook to Surviving Medieval England. It is a mouthful, and I mess it up every time I say it, just about. This one was a lot of fun. I am part of Brandon Sanderson, or I'm participating in Brandon Sanderson's Year of Sanderson, the Kickstarter that he put out last year for the 4 novels, secret novels that he wrote during 2020. This one was a lot of fun. It was very different, from me at least, from what I have read of the Cosmere, and it seemed more along the lines of his YA novels. But as these were written for his wife, I did classify it as an adult. Had a lot of fun with it, and if you are not part of Sanderson's Year of Sanderson, or part of that Kickstarter event, you will have access to this book in a few months. It'll be in the summer quarter when it comes out to everyone else. And then finally, for Wild Form Druid, I had Shapeshifting. I had to read a book that had a wolf on the cover, in the title, or the author's name, and I read The Longing of Lone Wolves. This is another series that I picked up, and it's been one that has been on my shelf since I received it in a book box, and just haven't gotten around to it until this, and it seemed like a perfect excuse to pull it out and read it, and I had so much fun with it. It's kind of it is dystopian, and has some of that fun magic in it. So for Realmathon, I ended up being on the winning team. I was part of Ilma. Personally, going by my points, I logged a total of 436 points, and took 82 points from Inya and 33 points from Cyrus. On average, if I remember correctly, for Ilma, the average number of points per person was just under 300. And so it was kind of nice. I kept track of my points just to see where I fell in that average. Because I actually was really worried that I would be holding our team back just because of it being April and my reading life just falling off normally in April. One of the books that I read during that month that I didn't talk about that I really enjoyed, even though it took me a little bit for surprise, because I wasn't sure I was gonna like this author. I have been reading the Firefly series, and the author changes in the middle of this series. So this month I did read Carnival, and this one is by Una McCormack, and the others have been by James Lovegrove. I really have enjoyed James Lovegrove's writing and the way he presents the characters. I didn't realize until I read this one what James's voice, his writing voice, kind of missed, and that was Kaylee's voice. And Una does a great job of capturing Kaylee's voice as I'm reading it. There wasn't a moment when I could not hear the actress's voice in my head whenever Kaylee was on scene. I could easily picture her character doing different things or saying different things that were in this. So that one was a little bit of a surprise for me, for getting into that one as quickly as I did and reading it as quickly as I did. That one, most of the Fireflies have taken me about a week to read. This one took me just under 24 hours to complete it, and I had a wonderful time with it. I did not want to put it down at any point. So the only book that I would say that fell a little flat for me, and from what I captured in the little bit of it that I read or what I watched, was episode 13. This was part of the Pyramid Book Club. I didn't watch the full video because I had not finished the book yet, so I only watched the non-spoilery part, and even that I only partially listened to that. But it seemed that a lot of people, this one didn't hit home quite as much as we would have all liked. But overall, I still had an okay time with the book. But it just wasn't, it is not the type of thriller horror book that I normally would go to. There was a lot left kind of unexplained and lackluster. The setup of it, though, was kind of neat because it's all told through these bits and pieces of having a behind the scenes look. You know, we're watching the transcripts for their recordings and seeing their journal entries for an episode that never was aired, because of events that go on throughout it. So, not a bad book overall. It just, especially of the books that I read during the month of April, this one probably was the one that fell the flattest. Um, and understandably, with as many great reads as I had during the month. And so that's kind of, I know I didn't talk about every book I read, and just kind of glossed over a few, especially those series. But overall, it was a great month. Um, and I had so much fun reading this much. My May, I'm a little worried that April has spoiled me and that may not set me up the best. The only thing I haven't done yet that I normally do during the month is I do not have my genre blanket updated quite yet. At the end of April, we started a 2-week detox from screens and technology. So I have not been listening to an audiobook so that I can, or watching TV so that I could crochet while I consume books or stories in another form. And so that being said, I am behind on that. I don't do well with just crocheting without having something going on in the background. And I love listening to my audiobooks while I do that. So I will have to do a genre blanket update soon and post that for you. But until then, let me know in the comments if there are any books that you read recently or that any of the books that I spoke about sound like another book that you think I might like. Maybe it will end up on a TBR in future months. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It just helps me to know the things that you would like to continue seeing on my channel. And I will talk with you later.